Okay, so I'm going to be going through tonight, walking you through how I use my different trading platforms and giving you some ideas of how you might want to set them up so that you can maximize your trading experience. And granted, that's strictly going to be based on what my opinion would be of you maximizing your trading experience. And with that, also, with what I've become comfortable with using my trading platforms. So I'm going to start out here, and we're going to start with a look at eTrade Pro. I am recording it, but my last recording got messed up, so if you're here, take some notes. You know, here's one thing you can do. If you've got eTrade Pro and you've got your layout saved, come here to layout and just go to new layout. Just go to new layout and it'll give you this blank layout. And we can go step by step through here together. We can set some things up and you can see how you like it. So I'm going to give you guys a second to go ahead and do that, those of you with eTrade Pro. Now, those of you that don't have eTrade Pro, we're still going to go over Scottrade Elite and Thinkorswim. But it might be a good idea for you to at least take notes of like some indicator values, stuff like that, that will be beneficial in setting up platforms when we get to yours. So, you know, one thing about these trading platforms, the one thing I'm going to say is every one of them has benefits that the others don't. Sadly, there's not one that just has it all. What I like about eTrade Pro as opposed to the others is this right here, the Screen 1, Screen 2, Screen 3, Screen 4. This allows you to easily navigate through different trading screens. And as you will see when we get this set up, it allows you to watch several stocks without constantly typing in a new ticker symbol and all that good stuff. So I like the versatility that eTrade Pro offers. But where they offer some great things, the others have some great tools, some better indicators, some other things. So it's kind of a pick your poison. And I think for what it is, you know, eTrade Pro is the most versatile one out there. So that's not a pitch for me to tell you to go to eTrade Pro, because I've got more money in Scottrade than I do eTrade. So, you know, I'm not going to say, you know, otherwise. But so anyway, those of you that are going to be following along with me, just let me know once you get your screen looking like something like this. Or if you're not going to even try to get your screen looking like something like this, at least amuse me and say you did. That way I can start. Okie dokie. So the first thing we're going to do, and it's a real simple thing, we're going to go up here and click this Tools button. You got your Tools button. You get this little deal that pops up. The first thing I like to do on mine is open a chart. Can't trade without a chart. Some people will argue that and be like, I trade without a chart all the time. I can't trade without a chart. I'm a technical trader. Now, you could say that I'm OCD. You could say that I'm just weird. I would say that I'm pretty organized. I like to be able to look at something and it be organized well and me quickly be able to navigate through it. You might say the same about yourself. So when I set up my screens, I set them up in an organized fashion, and believe me, anytime I've tried to change them and do something new, it confuses the snot out of me, and I end up doing it all and going right back to where I started. I've tried quite a few different setups, and I kind of like consistency and versatility of this one. So you're going to see me kind of position some stuff here, and I'm going to run this chart, and I want it to take up the majority of my screen. technical trader. The chart is what matters to me. Once I get my chart laid out here on my screen, there's another tool that I really like to use. We call it a level 2. eTrade calls it a market depth. So I'm going to open one of these. That's what I thought. You got to watch when you're doing this, because sometimes if you do it wrong, you see how when I click screen 2, the chart stays there. So I am actually going to reduce the size of my chart for a second again. There we go. So now I got it in my area. What's another thing that might be pretty beneficial for us to be? One thing I want you to remember is you want to keep things simple. You don't need to look at too much. But our level 2 is going to show us bids and the asks and where they're placed. The chart's going to show us what we need to see. What else might we want to put on our screen? I'm going to say no right now, and that's only because I'm going to show you why in a bit. See this where it says show order entry? You can do your order right there off of your level 2. No reason to waste space. Your time in sales is actually going to show up right here. And in options chain, we're going to set this screen up. The screen one's going to be just for common stock trading. We'll put the options chain on our next screen when we go through to set it up. What else is important? What do we need to be watching for in our stocks? There you go, news. So we can go back up to tools. We can click news. And we get us a little news feed box. I'll resize this a little bit. Didn't mean to resize it like that. And I'm going to put this down here. So now, I'm going to play with it a second. Make sure I get all my stuff to my screen. And now my OCD self can see something organized. Now, there's kind of a pain in the butt when it comes to having 3 different things set up here, right? If I want to look at Apple, well, now I got to change this to Apple. And if I want to see if there's news on Apple, I've got to change these 3 things, don't I? And that's really not too user-friendly. So what we're going to do is we're going to link them. Now, before we go to link them, I want you guys to look at this little gear box up in the top right corner. You got your X, you got your maximize, your minimize, and a gear. We're going to go ahead and click that real quick. And we want to enable tabs on this window. It's going to kind of make it almost look like Internet Explorer or any type of browser with our tabs. We're going to do that on all 3 of these. And you'll see and understand why in a bit. But now there's a couple ways that we can do these links. There's pre-generated links where we can just come up here and, okay, for market depth number 1, I want link number 1. For chart number 1, I want link number, for news number 1, I want link 1. And now when I come over to something else, I can go LinkedIn. Oh wow, look, they all three changed. I can go Facebook. I can go AK Steel. So what we've done is we've set a screen up. And what we have with it is organization. We can see chart. We can see level 2. We can see news. And we can quickly change chart to chart to chart to chart to chart. And we can do that very quickly, very easily. And now we need to worry about, oh no, Brian, sorry, man. And Nina, no, I never have the problem of the links not working properly. But one thing, actually back in the past I did, and then I just reset everything one day, and I never had the problem since. So maybe doing this tonight might help you out. So Brian's learned something here. He's learned how easy it was to only change the symbol once and it go. Now here's the funny thing though. You want to change it with your level 2. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why, because if I change it here just on the chart, my level 2 and my news don't change. Did you notice that? I changed the chart to Apple. The level 2 of the news didn't change. Don't ask me why. I can't answer it. Just let me tell you the easy way to do it, and you come up here and you change it there, and boom, they all change. So now we want to take these tools that we've set up, and we want to be able to maximize our usage of them. Okay? We want to maximize what we get from it. Let's start over here with our market depth, our level 2. For us to maximize our experience with this level 2, there's a few things we can do with it. I want you to right-click it, and you see the window that pops up. Well, the first thing I want on mine is a depth summary. This actually groups all of these bids and asks together at each price and shows me just how many shares are at 239 and how many. So that's the first change I want to make to my level 2. Once that change is made, I'm going to right click again. And I like to show odd lots. I don't want to just see even numbers. If somebody wants 5 shares, show me. Now look, I get these 22s, these 25s, 70, 41. So now it's not going to round things. It's actually going to show me what's really there. And that was show odd lot. Now some people like the show time. And what that does is it shows you the time that it was placed. Why would that be useful? Why do you think showing the time that it was placed would be useful? Yeah, Big John, you're exactly right. You can also see, maybe somebody entered it in before market hours, and here you are at 3 o'clock, and this isn't somebody trying to kill the run. Somebody just trying to. They picked their target, they traded their plan, and there it is. So the time can be helpful in that aspect. But for me, to be honest with you, that's just too much. I don't need to see it. Really, I don't care what time they placed it. I just care what it is, right? I just care that people want to sell 2,065 shares at 239, and somebody wants to buy 100 at 238.40. That's really all I care about personally. So you can show the time on it. The cool thing is this right here is going to be like a time sales that during the day will rattle off, and you'll have sales records rattling off here, and it'll show you the time that it was done and how many shares at what price. So you'll have a time and sales record here. Oh, look, just like that. How nice of them, huh? How nice of them to perfectly time their assisting my demonstration. Now, here's one thing. You see that there right now. I'm going to go back to the Apple chart. It disappears. I go back over here to LinkedIn, and now it's gone. So if you actually prefer tracking the time and sales record, you can use time and sales. You can use the time and sales. They've got, you know, tools. I don't even use it, so I'd actually have to look for where it is. Time and sales. And you could set that. With this tab feature, you can have the option to have this one open and as many more as you can fit tabs on for. Now the next thing I like to have set up is, now as far as I'm concerned, I just kind of move this over a little bit so I don't even have to open it. I can just kind of read it right here. I can see how long ago it came out. There we go. That's all I do to my news. Simple so far. Everybody with me? Okay, so another important thing for us is going to be setting up our chart, right? We don't want different charts for everything we do because we want to be able to quickly go through the charts and see what it is we're looking for. Simple enough, right? You don't want to, oh, this one's got yellow and red candles. Which ones are yellow? Which one's red? Looks like the yellow candles are actually the down candles, the red candles are the up candles. That drives me nuts. So just like we right-clicked on the market depth to change the settings, we're going to go ahead and right-click. And here's a couple things we're going to do real quick before we even change anything else. Actually, it's already defaulted. Never mind. It used to not be defaulted. You actually used to have to click all these. So let's go to chart settings. You go to chart settings. Now, I kind of like this dark background. It's easy on my eyes during the day. You know, if you use charts with a lighter background, you know, like one like a Scottrade streaming quotes chart, what you end up with is really strained eyes at the end of the day. So we're going to go ahead and make a couple changes on this. I don't like bright colors on my chart. Now the colors is going to be purely up to you, but I actually like dull colors simply because when you sit here all day, every day, from the time you wake up until literally the time you go to bed, you spend the whole trading day looking at a chart, and then you spend 6 to 8 hours afterwards looking at charts to put together watch lists and such. That actually puts a strain on you. So I actually like to take something and, you know, I clicked that bar color. That was the first thing I clicked. This comes up. Go over here to swatches. I still want it to have that white feel, but little subtle changes. You know, you hear of things with with your desk space about, you know, being ergonomic and, you know, protecting your wrists so you don't get carpal tunnel and, you know, all these other things. Well, these are actually important steps to take to make it so you're not getting migraine headaches and all that other stuff. So I kind of go with one of the lighter grays for my candle outlines, my bar color. I don't like red as an up color. I mean, me personally, since I was about 2 years old, I associated the color red with bad. So I'm going to click that, and you get this little window that comes up again. And I'm going to go with just one of these green colors in the middle. You can go with a brighter one if you prefer. I like one of these just in the middle greens. In my down candles, I don't want a yellow candle. I'm going to go with one of these kind of in the middle reds. You can notice from the default on the volume bars, a lot more subtle on the eyes. And what this is actually going to help do as well, by making these a little more dull, the indicators you may follow, the moving averages, the Bollinger Bands and whatnot, it makes it actually easier to read when you put it all together. Now when I come to the volume, I'm actually going to pop to that same green, that middle of the road green color. And on the red, I'm going to go with that middle of the road red color. I can just click the recent right there, match them up. Now it's all nice and pretty. So right now what I've got is a basic chart setup. I've changed my colors a little bit for something that's more comfortable on my eyes. And I'm ready to go. But I like other things on my charts. Do you guys like other things on your charts? Not everybody does. That's why I ask. Some people rarely trade on things like indicators, and they may believe that having them on the chart is simply putting them in the way. You get too much stuff in your way, and you start to miss trades. But if your system requires the use of indicators and such, we'll discuss how to go ahead and put them on there. So what are some indicators you guys like to use? Or do you just want to know the ones I use? Okay, we're going to talk about upper indicators first. This will make it easy. We're going to upper indicators, ones that go up here where the candles are. So Bollinger Bands. We can go right here to Studies, click this drop-down box, and we'll go down to Bollinger Band. Now, with etrade, we add a Bollinger Band, and we now have to choose whether or not we want it to be an upper or a lower. Some people like a 20 setting on their Bollinger Band. I use a 14. So I'm going to change that number to 14. You want it to have a series of close. The line width is going to change the thickness of the line. There's a 10. The default is 2. And a blue that just barely offsets from the background. And that's that I use for my Bollinger Bands. You can choose whatever color you want. You know, Elaine might like a pretty pink. Nina might like a purple. Brian might like a pretty pink. You can pick whichever color you wish. I use a blue. So then I go ahead and I hit OK. And I've got my Bollinger Band now set with a 14 moving average period. But you can't just use an upper Bollinger Band, can you? That's kind of a pain in the butt. So we're going to hit Add again while we have Bollinger Band in the study. Add. We're going to change this to lower. If I'm using a 14 from my top Bollinger Band, I need a 14 from my bottom Bollinger Band. And as far as the color goes, why wouldn't I use the same color as I use for the top? You don't have to. If you don't know the difference between the top and the bottom, make them different colors. I know people that will actually make the bottom one bright green and the top one bright red. Why would they do that? You buy it on the bottom, you sell it on the top. There you go. It makes it, you know, hey, if they're not really paying attention to their chart and they're using an intraday type chart, like some of my scalping I do with options, my options chart just looks like this top. I don't have any other indicator on it. I'll buy on the bottom Bollinger Band and I sell at the top Bollinger Band. I don't need anything else. That sounds like a simple strategy, but, well, that's because it is. When it sounds simple, and it is simple, it generally keeps you from overanalyzing things. Overanalyzing in stock trading gets you in a lot of trouble. So another thing that's common when you use Bollinger Bands is, aside from the top band and the bottom band, is the middle line. We're going to set that up as a simple moving average. So we're going to go, there it is, a simple moving average. We'll click Add. If our top band's a 14 and our bottom band's a 14, then this one should be a 14. And if it's associated with my Bollinger Bands, I might as well make it the same color. And there we go. Now, when I trade just common stock, especially stocks under, you know, $10, I like to use moving averages of other values. So I use 3 other moving averages. So I'm going to click Add, Add, Add. This is added by 3 other moving averages to the chart, and I'm going to go back to this first one. Now, I don't put a lot of weight on a 20 moving average. I really don't, but others do. I mean, there's scanning programs out there that will simply scan for a 20 moving average break. So I have to respect it. I like to be able to look at a chart, look at the color of my stuff, and know exactly what it is by the color. I also like having that consistency because when I put out a newsletter or something, you guys can read it and go, oh, that's his little mustardy colored line. That must be his 20 moving average because I've seen enough of his charts that that's what I know it is. So on my charts, you see a moving average that's this dark mustardy color. That's a 20 moving average. Now, this might sound kind of corny and stupid to you, but if you're following my trades and my charts, don't you think it would help to set your chart up in a similar manner so that over time you begin to see the stuff in the way I see it before I ever see it? Because let's face it, I'm one person. I can only watch 100 stocks in any given day. Yeah, right. No, Brian, because I use a 14 setting on Bollinger Bands, the center line is a 14 moving average. If you set your Bollinger Bands to 20, then your center line would be a 20 moving average. I've just always used the 14 because I've found better consistency on it personally. The next moving average I want to use, it's going to be a 50. Now it's showing up white, but when you see it on any one of my charts, it's generally an orangey red color. And that would be what my 50 moving average is. So I'll go ahead and pick the color. I got the 50. It's on my chart. And the other moving average I use is a 200. In all of my charts, you will see the 200 moving average is always this teal color. And there we go. So now I've got my Bollinger Bands, upper, lower, center, a 20 moving average, a 50 moving average, and a 200 moving average. Pretty well set on my upper indicators. Now there's people out there that use 100. There's people out there in this chat room right now that they have no interest in common stock at all. And when we set up our platform for options, they're going to want to pay attention for that. Because believe it or not, I do use different moving averages. Now let's talk lower indicators. What lower indicators do we like to use? I know what my favorite is. It's an RSI, Relative Strength Index. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. And I use an RSI 10. I don't like them weird colors for the reference line and this, that, and the other. So, I'm just going to change that reference line to something fairly easy to see. Because what do those two lines represent? The bottom one's the 30, the top one's the 70, right? So I just barely want to be able to see them. I really don't care much about them. And then I always run a nice soft color for my RSI that contrasts the color of the lines. Pretty simple to do. The next indicator I like to use is the MACD, moving average, convergence, divergence. Here's the tricky part when it comes to eTrade. Most brokers, you can just click MACD and you get these two lines and these bars. The bars would be the histogram, the two lines would be the MACD line, the MACD signal line. Here, we're going to have to add them separate. So we're going to add the signal. We're going to add the line. We're going to add the histogram. Now, a lot of people, it's pretty common, you see a default with most brokers that your MACD with a number value 1226.10 or 1226.9. A lot of people like to change that to 613.5. That can be a little bit difficult because if I just put in 613.5, it's not even going to be recognized. Well, eTrade's got a little link, and I probably should have had this handy before I started out this so I could just share it with you. But I didn't, so you're going to have to trust me on the 613.5 setting. Your slow smoothing will be 0.143. Your fast smoothing will be 0.286. And your signal smoothing will be 0.333. There you go. Adam's the man. Now, you have to remember these values because the other two don't include all three of them. It's slow, fast, signal. We come up to MACD for the line. It only wants to know our slow. That was the 0.143. And our fast, which was the 0.286. And then for our signal line, now it's asking for all three again. 0.143. Fast is 0.286. Signal, 0.333. Now we're actually starting to look like a nice consistent MACD. So I go through and just like save my eyes, I'm going to pick that same dull red. My MACD line, I'm going to pick that same dull green that I did for candles. And for that histogram, that bright yellow has to go. But I like the yellow, so I'm just going to dull it down a little bit. And now I've got my RSI and my MACD. What other indicators do we like to use? Now, remember too, one thing I'm going to encourage, you don't need to use more than 3 indicators on a chart. The reason is, you will confuse yourself. Oh, okay, well, 3 of my 19 tell me to buy, and 12 of the 19 tell me to just sit here and wait, and the rest of them, 4 of the 19 tell me to sell. What do I do? You don't want to overcomplicate it. Go through and backtest some trades. Go look at some charts and see which indicators give you the best trades on the charts that you like to trade. That's actually how I decided on what values to use. I would say, what indicator would have had me getting in Lincoln for this run prior to the gap up? And that's the indicator setting I want to use. We'll go and use our, I'm going to put in slow stochastics. But how you're going to see me do it, it's not going to say slow stochastics. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to use the etrade slow stochastic. Why? Many times with other brokers and other setting of 3, 3, 4, what they are when we go in. Well, the slow stochastic with etrade doesn't allow me the 3 values. The full stochastic does.